Chapter 18. For there are 9 people stronger than him. Boda called in Fremon's most advanced engineers and brought the most advanced equipment to dismantle the demon. Zhang Yi didn't care about it. Even he, a bishop-level alien, spent a lot of energy to destroy the body of the demon. This means that the artificial body made of this top-level material can even withstand the bombardment of the god of death of love. The combat body of a super-era civilization is completely beyond the imagination of modern people. Sure enough, those engineers used various cutting tools to cut the body of the demon as soon as they came up. Various laser knives and ion cutters were used one after another. However, the most powerful cutting equipment on this planet could hardly cause any damage to it, and it was even extremely difficult to scratch off a trace of debris. Boom! A huge engineering equipment was scrapped on the spot. Not only did it fail to cut successfully, but it caused itself to be damaged by the recoil of the force. The engineers of Fremons were stunned. They had also cut super-large mechanical life forms before, and that thing had already exhausted their efforts. Originally, they thought that the body of the demon god was stronger than the super-large mechanical life form, but it could be shaken to some extent. But they didn't expect that the gap between the two was so big. Of course, they couldn't understand it. For mechanical civilization, the so-called super-large mechanical life form is actually just an engineering vehicle used to dig the earth. And the 10 demon gods are real fighters. In terms of the gap in technical content, it's like a tractor and an aircraft carrier. How can they be compared? I don't believe that with our Fremon's technology, we can't even cut off a little fragment. An engineer was ruthless. He was an alien with an ability index of up to 9,200 points. He has a skill called Laser Scalpel, which can turn his arm into a particle form and can even accurately cut diamonds without leaving any marks. He raised his arm, and in an instant, his right hand had completely particleized, turning into a light knife flashing with brilliant light, and then slowly fell towards the body of the demon god. This time he learned his lesson and didn't continue to cut at the head, but cut towards the little finger. Because the defense layer in the core area of the head must be the most difficult to break. The moment the laser knife touched the little finger of the demon god, a dazzling light instantly exploded in front of his eyes. Boom! The violent explosion was accompanied by a sky-high flame, which directly blew the engineering vehicle they were in into pieces. The dozen engineers present did not even make a sound, and were directly blown to pieces here and there, with dozens of pieces next to them. The powerful shockwave spread, and the surrounding Fremon soldiers had not yet recovered and were swallowed up. Zhang Yi instantly unfolded the 10,000 things and absorbed all the shockwaves. The demon god's body has a powerful defense mechanism, and it will automatically respond when it is eroded by a strong external force. Although the energy core has been taken away, like the nerves of the human body, the various built-in defense modules still exist. Fortunately, it has no autonomous consciousness. Otherwise, it only needs to burst out even 1/10 of the power of Gue, and even a white chariot-level alien like Boda will be seriously injured. The scene soon became a mess, and only the seemingly broken body of the demon god remained in place, and there was already a huge deep pit there. Bodaga's face was very ugly. Zhang Yi glanced at him and said, "Do you want to continue trying?" Boda clenched his fists, stared at Zhang Yi and said, "Of course. We must take the part that belongs to Fremons." Zhang Yi shrugged his shoulders and said, "It's up to you. Once you think of a way, you can come and get it at any time." Boda left angrily. He decided to go to the Temple of the Gods and ask several powerful aliens to help. Zhang Yi put away the remains of the demon god, thought about it, and went to Luke Heron to ask for some parts from the super-large mechanical life form. Just modify it so that it looks similar to the limbs of the remains of the demon god. Give it to them when they come to ask for it again. This kind of demon god's body is a top-level machine. If you can crack its core secrets in the future, you may be able to get a robot comparable to the bishop level. At the very least, its body strength alone can also compete with Epsilon. Of course, the premise is that it can imitate the energy core of the same level, which is the key to its strength. Otherwise, they would only get an extremely tough shell. Therefore, Zhang Yi was reluctant to divide it and transfer it to Fremon's people. Liu Karen scratched his head. Will it not be discovered if we do this? Zhang Yi sneered. The original is in our hands. We say it is real, and they can't prove it even if they say it is fake. Anyway, with their level of technology, leaving it to them for research will not yield results in a short time. Let's keep it for ourselves. Liu Karen's divine machine control is a god-level skill, and letting her study it is the most cost-effective approach. Liu Karen thought about it, and directly disassembled a part of the most solid material from the huge mechanical life form placed in a corner of the alien space. Then he started directly. Divine machine control can transform the structure of matter without the help of external objects. The shape was slightly changed and it looked like a section of the demon god's arm, and it was done. Zhang Yi put it away, although its toughness was not as good as the remains of the demon god. But the Fremon's people couldn't find it for a while. After a while, Bodaga came back again. This time, he brought Alexei to find Zhang Yi. Chaos. Take out the remains of the demon god. I found someone who can split it. Bodaga stared at Zhang Yi and said. Alexei looked at Zhang Yi with a strange look in his eyes and asked, Sir Chaos, you actually captured a demon god? Zhang Yi shrugged. It was just luck. Alexei opened his mouth and said with emotion, Oh, my God. It's you who actually did such an incredible thing. I had a hard time fighting. That thing is really hard to deal with. Zhang Yi didn't explain too much. Bodaga couldn't wait to stretch out his hand. Take it out now. Zhang Yi rolled his eyes. Do you really think I don't keep my word? As he said, he took out the piece of material and threw it to Bodaga. The heavy material fell into Bodaga's arms, making his body sink. Looking at the material in his hand, he showed a suspicious look. Is this real? They had just spent so much effort. How come the materials are ready now? He suspected that this was a fake that Zhang Yi had brought. TSK. Because I saw that your people are so useless, I specially asked my engineer to help cut it. If you don't want it, you can return it. Bodaga studied it carefully with suspicion, but couldn't figure it out. So he raised his right hand, and a sharp ice wrapped around his right hand, turning it into a huge ice knife, cutting towards the material. Bodaga is a white bishop-level alien, and his status in the Temple of the Gods is very high, but not because of his combat power, but because of his administrative ability. In Fremon's, he is an official in charge of multiple fields. And that piece of material is the hardest part of the super-large mechanical life form, and the material is only slightly worse than the remains of the demon god. Of course, his cutting did not leave a big mark, only a shallow scratch. Bodaga nodded with satisfaction. It was only a shallow mark left by my full-strength slash. This is definitely the material from the demon god. Zhang Yi laughed in his heart, but his face remained calm. I've said it before. I'm a kind person, and I never joke about this kind of thing. Bodaga hurriedly put the materials away, but he didn't forget to stare at Zhang Yi and said, But there is one more thing, sir. Don't forget. We also have a share of the demon god's energy core. Zhang Yi sneered. Why? Do you have to cut 1/10 of that thing for you? Bodaga shook his head. The research of that thing is very difficult, I know. But when you have researched the results, you need to share it with us according to the agreement. Sharing 1/10 of the content, I know. Zhang Yi replied lazily. However, technical things cannot be quantified, and it depends on Zhang Yi's mood at that time. However, Bodaga had no better way, so he could only leave with that part of the material in dismay. Alexei did not leave. He waited until Bodaga left before coming over to ask Zhang Yi curiously, Tell me, which demon god did you meet? Zhang Yi said, According to the materials provided to me by Fremon's, the one I met was Gue. Hearing this, Alexei exhaled a long puff of white smoke. No wonder. Zhang Yi looked at him curiously. Any explanation? Alexei and Zhang Yi entered the house. There was no one around, so he told him about the 10 demon gods. The 10 demons did not appear very often in Fremon's. We collected intelligence for half a year before we had the current basic understanding of them. Besides, we only found 10 demons. In fact, It is impossible to confirm how many such machines there are in the mechanical civilization. 5 of these guys appeared in the battle when Karen City fell. It directly paralyzed almost all of our armed forces. We mobilized almost all of our forces except the god of death of love, including the micro-H weapons, but in the end we still fled in a panic. The order of the 10 demons is based on. The basis for the order is the destructive power they show. So you met the weakest one among the 10 demons. The name of the 10 demons. What Alexei said was of course different from what Zhang Yi heard, but it was just a matter of translation mechanism that it became the 10 heavenly stems. Zhang Yi frowned deeply when he heard this. Are the strengths of other demons much stronger then? Alexei hesitated for a moment and shook his head slowly. Zhang Yi breathed a sigh of relief. But Alexei said immediately, it is impossible to judge. Because so far, they have not attacked many times. It is difficult to judge whether they have used their full strength. But there is indeed a strict hierarchy within the 10 demons. The upper demons can give orders to the lower demons. Zhang Yi rubbed the back of his hands and murmured, the essence of the demon is a man-made person, so this kind of upper and lower existence should be the management relationship between high-level machines and low-level machines. He pinched his eyebrows. Okay. If I meet those guys again in the future, I will pay attention. Guei, the weakest of the 10 demons, has space shock that can break some of his defenses of Sinluo Wanxiang. So, what about those upper demons? Zhang Yi's sense of security suddenly reappeared. Next, the battle should be upgraded. Zhang Yi said very seriously. The mechanical civilization didn't care about humans in the past and only regarded us as some sand in their engineering. But now, as the conflict between the two sides continues, the demons have been destroyed. I believe they will send out more combat bodies. Zhang Yi looked at Alexei. Be careful and safe. Alexei nodded vigorously. You too? After the battle in Tianhai City, Alexei's strength has also been improved. Now, even if his strength has not reached the bishop level, it is definitely a higher level of the Black Chariot level. However, if there is really a day when they start a full-scale war with the mechanical civilization, no one can guarantee that he can survive. Zhang Yi patted his old friend's shoulder with concern. Although he didn't say anything, if he met on the battlefield, he would help Alexei to the best of his ability. Zhang Yi sent Alexei away and then immediately went to find Lu Karen and Yang Xinxin. A strong sense of crisis enveloped him, making him eager to get more information about the 10 demons. In the silent and empty sky, white clouds were suspended in the air, motionless. The space without wind was as silent as death, and under the sky was a huge desert, boundless and endless. This was a lost world, with no flowers, trees, or animals, only endless yellow sand. However, in the sand dunes, there stood a building so huge that it could reach the sky. It was made of black and white metal, with a strange shape, like layers of stacked shale. The heavy metal texture exuded the smell of a Cold War machine, but it also looked like a drifting home that had carried the vicissitudes of time. At the top of the metal palace, 2 rows of dark figures stood. Their bodies were all black, the same color as the demon god Guei. The texture of the metal exuded a murderous aura. From the perspective of carbon-based creatures, it symbolized destruction and death, and could trigger the uncanny valley effect deep in people's hearts. The faces of each figure were covered by various masks, or perhaps that was originally their face. Humanoid creatures all have some human physical characteristics, but they all have non-human forms.